All right, hello and welcome. First of all, I want to say thank you for downloading the testimony framework, okay? This will be a framework that will allow you to quickly and easily create a testimony or a story that you can use in business, you can use for your church, you can use for your ministry, and it allows you to have a process and a framework to connect with your audience, connect with those that you seek to influence, okay? So I think it's always easier when there's an outline, when there's a framework. So make sure you download it. You're gonna be able to write on it. You'll see lines, but what I want to do in this short video is I want to walk you through the elements of it so that you understand it, okay? So why is it important? It's important in your ministry. So in the entrepreneurial world, it's your brand story, right? It's what makes you different. It's your USP. So the thing that makes you most different than any other person in the whole world is your story, because no one has experienced everything you've experienced. No one has ever felt everything you felt, and no one is living the life you live, right? So by understanding that, your story will completely be unique, right? So we're going to go through a quick framework. So I have it open, I have it downloaded. So I'm going to be talking you through some of it and explaining it as we go. So this should be fun. In ministry, the testimony should provide the introduction to your organization, to your ministry, etc. Now, here's a key point that I want to bring up about the strong story framework. The testimony framework. The testimony framework, you're going to also interject your core values and your beliefs. So yes, it's important to go through the story, but make sure you're including what's important to you, including your story. Does that make sense? We don't want this just to be chronological events. You want to share who you are. I believe sharing your testimony is so powerful. And I believe in Revelations 12:11-ish, up in there, it says they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, right? So your testimony, your life, your story gives you, shows how you overcame. It can encourage others and help them overcome. And your past, I really think, can help you as you move forward in your future, right? So as you're sharing your testimony, these are things you want to keep in mind. So let's jump into it. Many people say, how do I start? How do I start telling my story? Well, here's what you do. You start writing down different elements of your story, because I believe your testimony, yes, we have many different testimonies, many different stories, right? So depending on how much time you have, how much detail you can go into your story. But every time you tell a story, every time you share your testimony, if you incorporate these elements, it'll be a stronger testimony, a more powerful story, right? So that we can overcome, all right? All right, I get a little animated, I'm excited, but I wanna make sure you hear what I'm saying. So, first thing to do, take out a piece of paper. You know, you can use the back of the strong story framework or the testimony framework. You can use the back of it if you want, but you're gonna jot down different elements, different things you want to talk about, the highlights of the story, right? So what happened at the beginning? Okay. What happened at the end? You know what? Oh, here's a part of the story. Oh, here's an interesting part, because you want to just get it out of your head. Okay. Get it on paper so that you can speak to it. Next thing you want to do is, as you start writing your story, now, what are some lessons you learned along the way, right? So, okay, after the car accident, I learned this, or after I loaned that person that money and they didn't pay me back, here is a takeaway that I have. Why? Because you're gonna inject that into the story. You're gonna pull that into the testimony, because that draws people in and it shows, and it gives us an example that when we go through things, we should learn and apply the lessons that we learned, right? So the reason you go through your story and the reason your testimony is so powerful is so that others can learn from your mistakes or celebrate with you, or, you know, seek to follow your example. Okay, so give them those nuggets of information. Now, so The testimony framework is really 5 steps. So I'm going to give you the overview and then we're going to break it down. So the 5 steps is you got to set the stage, okay? Set the stage, switch up, sink or swim, the setback, and then the strong finish, okay? I'm going to say that again. You got to set the stage. There's the switch up that has to happen. There's the sink or swim moment. There's the setback. And then there's a strong finish. What does that mean? I'm going to talk you through it now. So I'm going through my testimony framework. And so step 1, set the stage. This is a part of your story when you give a picture of the environment, right? Have you ever told a story and well, you ever experienced something and then when you tell the story, they didn't get the same experience? The reason they didn't get the same experience is they weren't in the same frame set. They weren't in the same mindset or environment that you were in. So if you want a person to really get that same reaction, that same emotion, you have to set the stage. You have to pull them into a similar scenario. And you do that by setting the stage, okay? So here's what I mean. One of the reasons I wanted to get married, right? So I remember being in Paris and I am looking around Paris. I see the Eiffel Tower, you know, Paris, the city of love, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there by myself, right? So it's starting to drizzle a little bit and I'm sitting there by myself and I'm like, you know what? I know there's a woman at home that loves me. I was deployed in the military, etc. But there is someone home that loves me. And as I'm watching this beautiful scene, I see all these couples. I say, you know what, Lee? Now it's time for me to engage this relationship, okay? What did I do? I set the scene, right? Can you picture Paris? Can you picture the Eiffel Tower? Can you picture it kind of dreary where all these couples are around you? They're in the city of love and I'm by myself, right? But I was afraid to commit. Long story, another testimony. But I want you to see you set the stage, right? Now, as you're going through your story, the next element, so you set the stage, show the location, show the feelings that you are feeling. What do you see? What are things you can sense, right? So when I say things that you can sense, what do you see? What are some of the smells, okay? What do you hear? By telling these senses, a person can be drawn into your story and you can set the stage because if they see what you see, then they'll eventually feel what you felt. Listen, okay. I hope you're hearing this. Okay, second thing is the switch up. Okay, so the story's going well, and then there is the switch up. And this is when people really start to get engaged in your story, right? You know, a story that, hey, everything's going well, and, you know, I went home and my wife loves me and everything's great. Okay, it's kind of a boring story, right? But if when you get home, and you realize that, okay, wait a minute, some things have changed. You know, I'm not the person I was. Has she changed? Whatever, right? But you want to indicate the switch up. Here it says, this is a crucial part of the story. It is a part of your story where people actually become engaged because now you introduce the struggle. You introduce the change. You introduce the problem or a difficult situation. Okay, so a testimony, what makes a testimony is something happened, right? Something impacted your situation, it changed your life. Tell that part. But before you jump right into, I was in a hospital room, right? Here's the story, here's the setup, and then number 2, here's the situation, okay? I just found out that my spouse was diagnosed with cancer, or I just realized that, you know, my mom had gotten sick, right? What is the switch up? What's the, wait a minute, something is happening in this story. Then there's the sink or swim moment. When the switch up happened, when the problem occurred, you had to make a decision. What are you gonna do, right? Are you gonna stay with the person? Are you gonna stay with the company? Are you gonna keep chasing your dreams? Or, you know, are you going to let the situation overcome you, right? Did you decide not to fight the illness? Did you decide to give up on the business? Did you decide, you know, so what is the decision, okay? the situation in which we have to save ourselves by our own mean or own effort. Okay, what did you do to fix the situation? Right? That's your sink or swim moment. When you're telling the story, hey, things are going good, things go crazy. I have determined in my mind, right? To use a biblical example, prodigal son, Dad, I want to go out and live my life, right? So he's setting the scene. He's in a rich family, yada, yada, yada. He takes his money. Dad say, here, son, here's your money. He goes out and he's having a great time, right? And then the switch up happens. He went out of all his money. Now he's at the pigs, he's down with the pigs. And then he has a sink or swim moment. You know what? If I turn around, if I go home, then my situation can get better, right? Sink or swim moment, a moment of clarity. You know what? I can fix this, okay? Now, in the sink or swim moment, you got to go to the setback, right? Because things are going well, you decide to improve your situation, and then something else happens. Come on, this is real life. Why this framework is so powerful is because it reflects real life. Real life is, hey, there's a moment, and then things go bad, and then things start going back up because of what you're doing, or hey, things got turned around, and then things go bad again, right? That's the setback. That's another obstacle, another challenge that you have to face. So the setback is when so tell about the experience or event that causes some type of delay, obstacle, or another failure, okay? You're moving in one direction, then the other foot drops, right? What else happens? So that's the setback. And then show how you made it over the setback, how you made it through, how you made it over. We wouldn't be telling this testimony if then things were going down and I hate my life. I'm sorry, that's a horrible example. But, right? So at the end, there was some type of turning point. There was the strong finish. There was you finally achieved success. You beat the cancer. Hey, you revived after your divorce. Or your business is finally going in the direction that we want to go. For the unbeliever, there was a setback, right? Death, and then glory, right? Who he justified, he glorified, whom he predestined, he also justified. Who he justified, he, oh my goodness, I'm losing the scripture. Let me stay focused. But at the end, it says he's glorified, right? At the end, it's a strong finish. That's my point. So, in telling your testimony, okay, in sharing your testimony, set the stage, the setback, or the switch up, something went wrong, paradise lost, right? And then sink or swim. Hey, you know what? I've determined, I've come to myself, I'm gonna get myself out of it, right? And then the setback. The brother had an issue when the son came back. We got a setback, right? And then at the strong finish, the father says, everything I have is yours, blah, blah, blah. So my point is, this is how you tell a strong testimony. And if you understand these 5 steps, if you understand these 5 phases of this outline, you can tell any story and it will become a powerful testimony. I'm going to share a little bit of my testimony. So in the example, I tell a business testimony and I also share a Christian example. I think I use this story of Adam and Eve just to kind of show how there is just to kind of show how in any scenario, whether it's for business, whether it's a biblical story, whether you're just telling your own testimony. I know for me, the setup, I just graduated from Bible college and I was beginning to, I'd been taken on at a church as their youth pastor and their Bible teacher at the Christian school, right? And the situation is going wonderfully, right? The youth ministry is growing. There's about 200 or so people in the youth department. I'm the youth pastor. It's growing. Life is great, right? But then I get called to war in Iraq. Right? So now ministry's growing. God's called me to do. Now I'm headed to Iraq. Right? Plot twist. And as I'm there, I realize that, you know what? Maybe, your faith gets shaken because you're seeing people die. You're seeing all these things. So my faith was shaken. And then the Lord graciously allowed me to go through Iraq. We make it back home, and now I am serving again, right? So I made my mind, hey, you know what? For you I live, God, and for you I die, right? So as I'm going through this situation, I'm beginning to make my mind, I'm going to serve the Lord. This is what I want to do. Then another setback. I began to realize as I'm ministering to others, I'm seeing things in church people. I'm seeing things in Christians that is not what I thought I'd see, right? Hey, how can this person who loved Jesus be like this? And how? So my faith really gets challenged. My faith really gets, so I begin to have a setback, okay? So I experienced this setback, and I began to say, Lord, I don't really think I should be a youth pastor anymore, right? Because everybody's fake. The whole, you start speaking in exaggeration terms. Everybody's fake, right? Nobody loves Jesus with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength, right? I alone. Oh, I was so young and dumb. But I began to get very judgmental, right? So ministry's growing, but I'm beginning to get further away from God. I'm beginning to pull away from the church. And then eventually another deployment came up, and this time I fled. I said, you know what? I am gone. The church does not, I'm walking away from the Christian church, not leaving God, but there are issues in the church I don't want to deal with, and I'm better off just me serving God. Setback, gone through. That deployment was not as clean living as the first deployment, if I had to be honest, but just rebellion, walking away from everything. But God, right? On that deployment, I began to experience and see God move in my life like never before. And when I came home from there, I realized that it is not the local body, it's not people in the organization. Your relationship has to be with Jesus Christ. And because my relationship was no longer built around approval, was no longer built around other people doing what they're supposed to do, because my relationship with Christ was built around Him, I began to experience a relationship with God like never before. And because of that, I've been able to serve in another ministry. I've been able to connect with my family. I've been able to become the man of God calls us to be. And though we are connected to a local body, I began to realize that we are connected to a spiritual body, and that's the body of Christ. And as long as I stay connected to that body of Christ, I can continue to learn and grow and excel. So, when you're faced with these situations, and sometimes you look around and Christians aren't doing what they're supposed to do, or you get disillusioned by Christians, I challenge you, people, keep your eyes on God, because if you keep your eyes on Him, I promise you, He will never let you down. Strong finish. You hear that? So I want to give you a simple example, but again, your testimony can be as long or as short. But if you go through the various elements, right? I could give you the long version of this testimony, or I can do it in 3 minutes. Does that make sense? Now it's your turn. Go through the Strong Story Framework, write out set the stage for us, write out the switch up, write out the sink or swim moment, write out the setback, and write out the strong finish, elements of the strong finish. And I want you to record it and put it in the Live Stream Your Ministry Facebook group. All right, put your testimony in the Live Stream Your Ministry Facebook group. And we want to celebrate you. We want to be encouraged by your testimony so that we all can overcome. Okay, my name is Lee Fuller, and thank you for checking this out. If you are not a part of the live stream your ministry, make sure you get connected. And if you're not streaming online, make sure if you need help streaming your ministry, growing your online platform, online, your church, your e-church, then I challenge you to connect with us, right? This is a place of learning. This is a place of growing. And I look forward to seeing you online. All right. God bless you. Bye-bye, everybody.